掌声来欢迎新任运动部长李洋，请上台。
Taiwan is leveling up with a brand new sports ministry, and it's headed by a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Finally out on bail after a year in detention, but former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je could face a longer legal battle. Ahead of Semicon, Taiwan's biggest chip industry trade show, we check out its network summit to see what's on display. Plus, the new U.S. defense strategy draft may mark a pivot from the Chinese threat abroad to domestic priorities. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Tuesday is National Sports Day in Taiwan. This year, the country marks the day with the inauguration of a new ministry aimed at promoting health and exercise. In recent years, sports moments like these have become more common in Taiwan. Winning, winning, and more winning. Whether it's grabbing gold medals at world events or winning its first elite-level baseball championship tournament, Taiwan's sports fans have lots to celebrate. And now they have even more reason to rejoice as the country launches a new sports ministry.
今天是9月9日，全民体育日，也是国家大喜的日子，因为今天运动部正式揭牌成立。
2025运动部正式成立。
The government upgraded the National Sports Administration, previously under the Education Ministry, into its own cabinet-level entity. Establishing the Sports Ministry was a campaign promise that President Lai Ching-te made when he ran for president in 2023. The ministry is a celebration of all things sports. Its logo is inspired by a celebration gesture that Taiwan's national baseball team captain Chen Jie-hsien made after he hit a pivotal home run in the Premier 12 tournament to beat Japan in the finals. It was an iconic moment, one that memorialized Taiwan's first ever win at an elite-level international baseball tournament. But the logo also holds another meaning, as its two parts form two T's, short for Team Taiwan. At the helm is two-time Olympic gold medalist Li Yang. At just 30 years old, he is the youngest minister in Taiwan's history.
我是一名运动员，过去在球场上经历无数次挑战与成长，因此我特别能体会运动员的心声，也清楚台湾运动发展的各项挑战。
One of the ministry's main goals is to help make Taiwan's athletes more competitive. Many have high hopes for its future.
当然是希望说，他可以为我们运动员谋取更多的福利，那让我们运动员可以在无后顾之忧的情况下，可以有更好的表现。
当然是希望能有更完整的对每个项目的更完整的规划跟帮助，然后希望他们也可以把选手带到更高更远的地方，这样。
我觉得我们现在最大的问题就是场地的问题，希望能在建作多几个冰场，能让我们有更多的训练环境。
And those hopes go beyond the country's borders. Taiwanese athletes training abroad also look to the ministry as a force to step up their game.
I hope the sport ministry can help me as a fencer and help me make it to the Olympics.
But the ministry is tasked with not just developing Taiwan's professional athletes. It will also encourage everyone in Taiwan to take up more exercise, something Minister Li says he'll prioritize. So whether you're young or old, competing as an athlete or para-athlete, or putting on running shoes for the first time, this ministry is here to help the country stay active. Justin Wu and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. Prosecutors say they will appeal a district court's decision to release former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je on bail after nearly a year in detention. But the Taiwan People's Party founder on trial for corruption and embezzlement has managed to maintain strong support, sparking speculation about his next move. Tiffany Wong has more.
总统怎么看柯文
President Lai Ching-te wards off questions about Ko Wen-je, the former Taipei mayor who is now on trial for corruption. Ko was bailed out of detention on Monday, making sharp comments about the president after emerging from the courthouse. A spokesperson for the president criticized Ko's accusations of judicial persecution.
台湾是一个民主自由法治的国家，用攻击元首或者是污蔑司法的方法无助于厘清事实。
Ko is charged with taking bribes for a construction project while he was Taipei mayor and mishandling election campaign funds during his run for president. But he and his Taiwan People's Party have accused the president and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party of using this trial to go after him. Ko ran as a third-party candidate in the 2024 presidential elections, winning 25% of the vote. He says the DPP is trying to get rid of a strong opposition, especially as his party bands together with the Kuomintang in the legislature. But prosecutors say they've found evidence of his wrongdoing and will appeal the decision to release him on bail. They also cautioned Ko against using the media to sway public opinion. New Taipei City Mayor Ho Yo-yi, who ran as the KMT's presidential candidate in the last election, also commented on the case.
我想人民的眼睛是雪亮的，希望借着这个事件，大家好好探讨我们司法到底出了哪些问题。
Despite his legal challenges, Ko still has strong popular support, seen as hundreds of his fans waited for him outside the courthouse on Monday. And while it's unclear how long Ko will be able to stay out, some say he could try to make a political comeback, making a run in key local elections next year.
蓝白绿都有人出来选的话，那我可以保证高雄起码有2%市长是姓柯的，蓝白也势必是要合作在一起。
国会经过1年半的折腾，柯文哲主席是否有机会趁新会期改变这个态势，有别于过去不一样的蓝白合？
But others are more cautious. While Ko is still a very central figure to the TPP, it might be too soon to tell what his political ambitions really are.
I don't see a lot of friction in the short term. But a giant variable that's really hard to know at this point is that Ko has spent the last year in jail, and he's had presumably quite a bit of time to think. And what, or in any way, has his thinking changed politically? And until we know that, it's really hard to make very many predictions.
Unless the appeal to put Ko back in detention is successful, he may still have a window of opportunity to speak with his followers and his party and work out a plan for what comes next. Luffy Lee and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
4 of Taiwan's minor political parties have formed a new coalition aiming to break the country's two-party deadlock. The new alliance includes the Progressive New Power Party and Green Party Taiwan, and is targeting the 2026 local elections. They say the alliance is necessary at a time when Taiwan's two main parties are mobilizing support through hatred and division. They say cross-party cooperation is key to a mature political system. Taiwan's largest semiconductor trade show begins Wednesday in Taipei. Ahead of the show, organizers are hosting side events to demonstrate the global importance of Taiwan's chips industry. Chris Gorin was at one of them and brings us this report.
Semiconductors and statecraft, both were on display here at the Semicon Network Summit in Taipei, held one day before the opening of one of the world's largest chip industry events. Officials and industry leaders from across Asia, Europe, North America, and beyond shared the stage with those from Taiwan, including President Lai Ching-te, and the message was partnership.
今天的论坛不仅仅要凝聚更多共识，打造创新、安全、韧性、共融的半导体供应链，强化民主阵营科技的竞争力。
As AI sends chip demand soaring, Taiwan's firms are expanding global operations while navigating trade uncertainty. One leader of a national research center co-hosting this event says that's why cross-border collaboration is essential.
I keep saying that semiconductor is not built on top of one single company, one single technology. It's a supply chain. It's a partnership around the world, and this is going to create a very positive impact of the entire world to work together for semiconductor industry to move forward. I think this is not competition. This is the place we build a partnership and, of course, the friendship.
Other topics at the event included the future of AI chips and how to foster semiconductor talent. This forum and Semicon as a whole aim to show that when it comes to chips, capacity matters, but trust and friendship may matter more. Klein Wong and Chris Gorin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Chip policy is increasingly tied to national security. That's the message from international analysts at a security-focused side forum ahead of Semicon in Taipei.
I think the connection between actual security policy and the security order on this planet and the semiconductor policy is going to become more prevalent. And I would almost speculate saying, if you want to know semiconductor policy in 5 years from now, read security documents today.
The forum featured voices from the U.S., Europe, Africa, and Asia, and included remarks from Taiwan Foreign Minister Ling Jialong. Organizers say this year's Semicon will be the largest yet, with about 100,000 visitors expected. Taiwan's economy ministry says the country's liquid natural gas imports are diversified enough to withstand any future Chinese attacks on its energy sector. It was responding to a U.S.-based think tank report warning that Taiwan relies on Qatar for about 30% of its LNG imports, making it vulnerable to Beijing's influence. The ministry says Qatar's share of gas has decreased by nearly half over the past decade, reflecting the government's efforts to reduce dependence on a single supplier. Currently, more than 40% of Taiwan's electricity is generated by LNG imports from 14 different countries. A recent report by Politico says a draft of the latest U.S. national defense strategy shifts priority toward domestic and regional missions, placing them above countering rivals like China and Russia. The move marks a sharp departure from the military's long-standing focus on Beijing. To learn more about what it means to the Indo-Pacific security and how Taiwan should respond, Alan Liu spoke with Bryce Barros, an associate fellow with the think tank GlobeSec.
Politico reports that this new U.S. defense strategy draft could shift focus from the China threats to domestic priorities. Is this a reasonable assessment, as we have seen the Trump administration championing policy to deter Beijing?
I would want to take a step back from the Politico report and also highlight reporting from Ken Moriatsu at Nikkei Asia from a few weeks ago, or a week or two ago, where he actually had a similar report talking about the national defense strategy, which also highlights that, much like the Political report, says that it was heavily influenced by Vice President Vance, especially when it comes to restraint, as well as sort of the mutual focus on defensive realism that both Vance and Undersecretary Colby both have. Even though I do think the Political report is important to highlight, there are conflicting reports about what this actually means. So, for example, the Nikkei Asia report talks a lot about, wanting to draw on Munich Security Conference speech that was made by Vice President Vance earlier this year. It also emphasizes homeland defense in this report, but also says that China is a priority, specifically a strategically vital challenge. That said, if the reports that are coming out from Politico are true and that isn't correct, it really does highlight the importance that Taiwan needs to really get moving on focusing on its, ramping up its own security.
If such a shift is really underway, how might it affect the Indo-Pacific security?
I think it can affect Indo-Pacific security in a bunch of different ways, right? And if you look at how historically over the last 10 years, so going back even to the Obama administration, from 2009 to 2017, some of the different discussions that were happening related to Indo-Pacific security have always been to the forefront, right? So, for example, one common thread for the last four administrations, so the last two, Trump administrations, Biden administration, and Obama administration, has been a desire to want to make or prioritize the Indo-Pacific, right? But the United States getting pulled into other conflicts around the region. So it's been one example of how consistently this has impacted the region. But if you do pull away from some of those security commitments around the region, you also lose leverage because there's less of a security guarantee for those partners. if there's less of a incentive to want to hold on to that alliance, or the security guarantees are kind of viewed in a shaky way, or there's less confidence, then it's up to countries like South Korea, Japan, or even Taiwan to push more for its own defense development. So I think those are the immediate impacts that you could see if some of the reporting from Politico is correct.
How should Taiwan respond to the reported strategy shift?
I do think that what Taiwan needs to do going forward is continue to engage with the administration in every way possible. That means having tough conversations, which I'm sure are already happening behind the scenes, for the way that the administration views the region, including views Taiwan itself, right? I also think that that means that Taiwan needs to continue to diversify its partners. So that can mean anything from, talking with other partners about developing dual-use technologies together, to thinking of ways that Taiwan can continue to, receive training or boost its own defense capabilities in an internal manner. I also think, lastly, that it should be as a wake-up call that Taiwan should really continue to move forward on many of the different defense reforms and defense accelerants that have been happening.
That was Bryce Barros, an associate fellow with GlobeSec. Thailand's former prime minister must serve a year in prison after the court ruled he unlawfully avoided jail by prolonging a hospital stay. The 76-year-old Thaksin Shinawatra was convicted in 2023 of abuse of power and given an 8-year sentence, later reduced to 1 year. He spent just hours in prison before being moved to a hospital and then freed on parole after 6 months, a move that sparked public outrage. In their ruling on Tuesday, judges said Thaksin had no severe illnesses and could have been treated in prison. It comes less than 2 weeks after his daughter Peitatong was ousted as prime minister, marking a serious setback for a family that once dominated Thai politics. Coming up after the break, pushing to be heard on the world stage, Taiwan continues its efforts to take part in international organizations.
From a small studio in Taiwan to a global community for undaunted voices.
I'm just very grateful that they are able to spend time being part of Taiwan Talks and also being here with us today.
It's so refreshing that from a different country, from Taiwan, we are actually getting to see a show without noise, without yelling, and it's just complete facts and expert opinion.
Every single episode is about a Taiwan perspective.
Taiwanese speaking something from our heart.
Bringing forward all these different perspectives and voices to engage the world more seriously and continuously.
So the world will know that we are part of this globalized world.
British warship transited international waters.
We're facing
compromising our national
security. Really a lot of potential for these countries.
How important do you think that is?
Rule of law-based order.
It's been 3 years of almost every waking hour devoted to the show. Today, we have something, and that something is precious.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. Taiwan is making efforts to participate in several international organizations this year as it seeks to present itself as a meaningful contributor to the global community. Cadence Quaranta reports.
Government officials are gathering in Taipei to advocate for Taiwan's inclusion in the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, as well as the United Nations as a whole. The ICAO has a big assembly meeting coming up at the end of September, but Taiwan has not been invited. Government officials today outlined plans to change that, saying Taiwan hopes to contribute to these organizations.
台湾已多次向世界展现是可信赖的伙伴，并且表达积极贡献及提供协助的意愿，是落实联合国永续发展目标不可或缺的伙伴。
Taiwan has not been a member of the UN since 1971, when China's seat was transferred from the Republic of China, Taiwan's official name, to the People's Republic of China in Beijing. It has since been excluded from the ICAO, which is a UN agency, apart from once attending as a guest in 2013 under the name Chinese Taipei. This week, several legislators from across party lines will travel to New York to show support for Taiwan during this year's UN General Assembly. And later this month, Taiwan will send a delegation to the ICAO Assembly to push for its inclusion.
那我们一直以来恪尽维护飞航安全的职责，可以用保障飞航安全，所以 ICAO 应该是接纳台湾的参与，来符合 ICAO 确保全国国际民航安全跟有序成长的成立宗旨，也可以完备 ICAO 全球民航治理的完整性。那飞航安全是没有国界的。
Calls for Taiwan's inclusion in the ICAO comes amid air safety tussles between Taipei and Beijing. One is a contested flight path between Taiwan and China that's led to what Taipei calls dangerous commercial flights. Several U.S. Congress members have sent a letter to the organization to ask it to allow Taiwan to attend its upcoming assembly. They say the decision to exclude Taiwan undermines aviation safety and that its presence could help it handle China's changes to flight routes near its borders. ICAO did not respond to TaiwanPlus's request for comment on Taiwan's participation. This is not the first time Taiwan has advocated for its inclusion in these international organizations. These are efforts that have been going on for many years, as Taiwan seeks to present itself as a rightful contributor in the hopes of building up its voice on the global stage. Lian Lian and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Beijing is protesting a new policy in Washington denying U.S. visas to Central Americans with ties to the Chinese Communist Party.
美方挥舞签证大棒，吓不倒真正的有识之士，挡不住中国同中美洲国家关系发展的历史洪流。中国将继续与中美洲国家加强交流合作，促进当地经济社会发展，更好地惠及各国人民。
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the visa restrictions on September 4th. The ban will target those the U.S. believes to be helping China undermine rule of law in the region. The State Department says Washington is committed to, quote, countering China's corrupt influence in Central America and stop its attempts to subvert rule of law. To understand more about the United States' new visa restrictions on Central American nationals who help China's Communist Party, John Van Trieste spoke to Safe Space's analyst Patrick Ke, who specializes in Taiwan's diplomatic allies and Latin America.
So the United States has a long history of trying to keep other powers out of the Western Hemisphere, but why is it concerned about China in Central America right now?
So this is all part of Trump's policy of America first. And now in terms of the Americas first, Trump has put a lot of emphasis in the Americas, basically shifting the Biden's administration's interest in the Pacific and now turning to America, specifically due to Trump's immigration policies and also Chinese growing influence in Latin America.
Do we have any indication of who this new visa policy is targeting? It seems quite broad. Anybody helping this Chinese Communist Party undermine the rule of law. Do you have any idea who that might be referring to?
It is definitely very broad. And, well, there's no clear indication about who the State Department is referring to, but potentially it could be regarding to high-profile politicians that have ties with China and have benefited from Chinese investment in the region.
Is this some sort of new Monroe Doctrine, with the United States trying to keep the Western Hemisphere as its sphere of influence? And is Taiwan figuring into this somehow? As some people may know, the entire region of Central America was once diplomatically allied with Taiwan, but today there are only two countries that still have diplomatic relations with it, Guatemala and Belize.
I wouldn't say that this is a new Monroe Doctrine of the US, but there's specifically a lot of emphasis in the Trump administration regarding Central America and South America. So indirectly, that supports Taiwan's diplomatic position by raising the costs for political elites who might otherwise help China expand its footprint in the region. And at the same time, this opens the door for closer Taiwan-US cooperation. And if officials in Central America worry about jeopardizing their US ties, Taiwan and Washington can step in with deeper economic engagement, new development projects, and other alternatives to Chinese involvement. Of course, there's also a risk. If the US relies only on visa restrictions without offering credible alternatives, Beijing could respond by increasing its own incentives to keep or win over governments in the region. So while this move is helpful to Taiwan, it's only part of a much larger contest.
That was analyst Patrick Ko from policy consulting firm Safe Spaces. Taiwan is on a winning streak at the U18 Baseball World Cup in Okinawa, advancing to the tournament's super round. The team defeated Australia 10-2 on Monday, securing its third victory of the group stage. They still have one more game in that stage, facing off against Germany on Tuesday. And though their spot in the super round is locked down, that next game is still crucial, as the results will be carried over. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these traditional gondolas and other boats taking part in Venice's annual historical regatta. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
Wow, this is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?